I bet you right now today, if the JCPOA was presented to Donald Trump as was written back then, I think everyone would be very pleased to sign it. And on the day Trump wants to find an exit ramp here, that we get the Straits of Hormuz done, we can go after the nuclear, the systems and get a diplomatic answer to what needs to be resolved here.
Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're breaking down CNN's latest report on the growing complexities surrounding the U.S.-Iran war and the evolving dynamic between President Donald Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Following their White House meeting, Trump openly dismissed Netanyahu's intelligence reports regarding Iran rebuilding nuclear sites like Pickaxe Mountain, claiming the Prime Minister is simply pressing to keep the U.S. deeply involved. With high gas prices, key shipping lanes like the Strait of Hormuz compromised, and public disapproval mounting, questions are growing over what the actual exit strategy looks like. We'll also examine former U.S. Ambassador to Israel Tom Knight's take on Netanyahu's political dilemmas, potential diplomatic off-ramps, and escalating regional tensions. Let's get into the video.
Welcome to The Lead. I'm Jake Tapper. 5 months into this war with Iran, and what does President Trump have to show for it? Well, 61% of the American people disapprove, for one. 18 U.S. service members have been killed. More than 600 have been wounded. The Strait of Hormuz is largely closed. A toll on the U.S. munitions stockpile has taken place. And, of course, high gas prices at the pump. And while President Trump paused strikes this weekend after hitting Iran for 13 straight days, there is still no clear strategic advantage or plan to get out. Now, 5 months might be way too soon to declare this a quagmire, but it does not seem as though President Trump knows a clear way out of this. Oh, and that nuclear sites, those nuclear sites that Trump claimed that the U.S. obliterated last year, there are now satellite images showing Iran might be rebuilding them, including one called Pickaxe Mountain. All this culminating on the day that Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu met with President Trump at the White House for about an hour and a half. Hours before their meeting, Trump downplayed pressure to escalate the war with Iran, underscoring a strain in the U.S.-Israeli relationship. This is what Trump said when asked on Fox before the Oval Office meeting about reports of Netanyahu's plan to share intelligence about Iran.
5 months into this situation with Iran, Jake Tapper drops the ultimate report card. And let's just say it's not going on the fridge. We've got a solid 61% public disapproval rate, gas prices soaring into the stratosphere, key trade shipping lanes basically shut for business, and military stockpiles running on fumes. After 13 straight days of airstrikes, President Trump paused operations, but nobody seems to have brought the roadmap for what comes next. To make matters even spicier, those nuclear sites that were supposedly obliterated last year, satellite images show Iran is apparently playing real-life Minecraft at a spot called Pickaxe Mountain and building them right back up. So, 5 months in, we've got high gas prices, a closed strait, and a game of nuclear whack-a-mole. Excellent progress all around.
I don't need Bibi to tell me that. Bibi's telling me that because he wants me to stay involved. We know exactly what's going on. But no, I heard Bibi announce that. I said, why don't you just tell it to me? Why do you have to announce it to the world? I know exactly what's going on at Pickaxe. It's not a big problem. We took out their nuclear sites, and we'll have to take out Pickaxe if we don't make a deal. If we don't make a deal, we'll take it out very easily.
Trump also threatened again to destroy Iranian bridges and power plants if no deal is made.
They know I'm going to do that if they don't make a deal. The bridges are going to be gone. Literally in less than, I would say in 2 hours, most of the bridges, the major bridges will all be gone. And the power plants in 1 day. And, if I can avoid doing that, I'd like to do that.
Iran and the U.S. may have stopped shooting at each other for now. As for any peace talks, however, those do not appear to be going anywhere. Joining us now is former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Tom Knights, who served under President Biden. And we should note he is also the spouse of a CNN executive. Ambassador Knights, hours before meeting with Netanyahu, President Trump put down the Israeli Prime Minister's intelligence about Iran rebuilding its nuclear sites. He said Netanyahu wants him to stay involved with the Iran war. Do you see this as a sign that Trump is trying to find a political off-ramp, perhaps even blaming Netanyahu for pushing him into this war?
Classic Donald Trump. Just hours before meeting Benjamin Netanyahu at the White House, he goes on Fox News and hits him with the ultimate political side-eye. When asked about reports that Bibi is bringing intelligence on Iran's Pickaxe Mountain nuclear site, Trump basically goes, "I don't need Bibi to tell me that. He's just saying it because he wants me to stay involved." Translation, "Nice try, Bibi, but I see what you're doing." He even threw in a little public passive aggression, asking why Bibi had to announce it to the whole world instead of just texting him about it. Trump insists Pickaxe Mountain is not a big problem and that he can deal with it very easily, while openly hinting that Netanyahu is trying to pull him deeper into a war he's looking to exit. You've gotta love the Oval Office pregame diplomacy. Nothing says great allies like calling out your guests' ulterior motives on national television right before lunch.
Well, first of all, Jake, thanks for having me. But I think, the sad part about this for the prime minister, he's in a cul-de-sac. He can't get out, right? He's got on one hand, he's got the Israeli people who are disappointed. They're still under an enormous amount of threat. They believe that the actions that were been taken over the last 5 months was going to lead to a peaceful resolution of the conflict, including, as he pointed out, potentially a regime change. On the other hand, he knows that President Trump wants the war to end. President Trump has been a great friend of the state of Israel, and he understands that President Trump wants this over. So does the Iranians. So we're in a very complicated place. And it's hard to imagine that 5 months ago, the Straits of Hormuz was actually open, and now we're fighting to reopen it. So again, the Prime Minister and oh, by the way, the Prime Minister has an election coming up in October. The complications here are immense. At the end of the day, I think all of us would like to have a peaceful resolution of this as quickly as possible.
Netanyahu described the meeting he had with Trump as one of the best conversations they've had. How much does Netanyahu need the U.S. to help fight Israel's battles?
100%. I mean, we are the most important ally to the state of Israel. Obviously, the state of Israel has their own ability to defend themselves, and it's proven over and over again. But we are the most important ally to the state of Israel, which I am proud to be part of. But that said, at the end of the day, that comes with a price. And the price is obviously you're working with President Trump. And when President Trump is making decisions, for good or for bad or for right or for wrong, the prime minister is going to have to listen to those decisions.
The war with Iran recently renewed fighting between Yemen's Tehran-backed Houthi rebels and Saudi Arabia. Shipping through the Bab al-Mandab Strait is now threatened, putting even more stress on the global economy. What are the risks if this truly becomes a whole new full-bore front to this U.S. war with Iran, except through proxy?
Jake Tapper poses a major question to former U.S. Ambassador to Israel Tom Nides. Is President Trump looking for a political off-ramp, or perhaps setting up Netanyahu as the fall guy for dragging him deeper into this conflict? Nides points out that Netanyahu finds himself trapped in a political dead end. On one side, he faces an Israeli public facing ongoing threats and expecting total victory or regime change. On the other hand, Netanyahu knows that Trump desperately wants this war wrapped up and over with. With shipping lanes locked down and an Israeli election looming in October, everyone, including Trump and the Iranians, seems to be looking for an exit ramp. In fact, Nides quips that despite all the past criticism of the original Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA, both sides would probably jump at the chance to sign a deal like it right now, just to bring the situation under control.
Well, listen, Jake, I think none of us want to see that happen. Listen, I think at the end of the day, it reminds me as I hearken back, if a lot of people didn't like the JCPOA, the agreement that we and the Biden administration or the Obama administration were negotiating early on. But I bet you right now today, if the JCPOA was presented to Donald Trump as was written back then, I think everyone would be very pleased to sign it. And, on the day of, Lindsey Graham's, funeral, listen, I had enormous respect for Senator Graham. I didn't agree with him on all things, but I had enormous respect. He was pushing, we were close to getting normalization with the Saudis and really creating a new paradigm in the region. Obviously, October 7th happened, and now we are where we are today. So a lot of decisions were made, and my hope is that this will, at some point, and I think President Trump wants to find an exit ramp here, that we get the Straits of Hormuz done, we can go after the nuclear, the systems and get a diplomatic answer to what needs to be resolved here.
I have to ask you about a crisis in Israel, or in the West Bank, rather, that is just just awful. Israel's now preparing a major military operation in the West Bank following a surge in violence. 2 Israeli soldiers, 4 Palestinians were recently killed. There's settler violence against Palestinians. Yair Lapid, the Israeli opposition leader, former prime minister, he referred to it as Jewish terrorists. I asked him how he would handle it. Take a listen.
I would send 300 police officers and 2 battalions of Borders Patrol and deal with it.
Deal with the settlers.
With the settlers' violence. First of all, this is Jewish terror. This is a disgrace for Israel. And nobody understands why the government is not taking stronger measures.
Nobody understands why the government is not taking stronger measures. It seems to me that it's because Smotrich and Ben-Gvir are part of the Netanyahu cabinet. They are zealots, they are extremists, and Netanyahu wants to stay in power. Am I wrong?
Jake Tapper shifts the focus to a dangerous escalation, the renewed fighting involving Yemen's Tehran-backed Houthi rebels and attacks near the Bab al-Mandeb state. With shipping through this vital Red Sea corridor under serious threat, the commentary breaks down the real nightmare scenario. If this turns into a full-scale regional proxy war, the global economy is in for a massive shock. Former Ambassador Tom Knights points out that just 5 months ago, these crucial maritime trade routes were open, but now the world is fighting to unchoke global supply chains. He even drops a bit of ironic nostalgia, noting that while many hated the 2015 Iran nuclear deal, JCPOA at the time, given today's chaos and sky-high oil prices, almost everyone would happily sign that agreement in a heartbeat just to get off this chaotic ride.
It makes me ill that this is happening. When I was ambassador, I was the person who basically sanctioned the settlers and made sure that they would never get a visa to come to the United States. It is a sickening thing. We, those of us who support Israel, which I do, those of us who consider themselves a Zionist, which I do, it makes me sick to watch that happen. We need to stop it. The Prime Minister needs to stop it. Ben-Gvir and Smotrich, hopefully that they won't be around post-October, because this kind of behavior, we don't have a point for this. This is, you can love Israel or disagree with Israel. This kind of behavior needs to stop, and we need to understand it does not make Israel safer. That's what I argue all the time. It does not make Israel safer, and it's not just the settler violence. It's many of the things that we're doing to the Palestinian people, including the economic issues that have been written extensively about. So listen, this is a very complicated situation in the Middle East, but certainly no one should stand around and think what's going on with settler violence is any way, the appropriate action being taken.
Former U.S. Ambassador to Israel, Tom Knights, thank you so much for being here. Trump and Netanyahu are expected to meet. Trump was asked if Netanyahu is going to ask Trump to strike a deal on Iran, or if he wants him to continue to militarily strike Iran. Trump didn't answer. What do you think Netanyahu wants, and what do you think is in the best interest of Israel?
I think in everybody's best interest is, I've been saying this since April 2024, we should have joined forces and bombed Iran's energy facilities, the Island of Courage and elsewhere.
Everything that was struck last year, you mean? Or?
Yeah, no. Everything that wasn't struck last year. Everything that is the economical infrastructure of the regime. Listen, you have to remember that there's young, wonderful people who took to the streets of Tehran in January, before the strikes. Did this not because of Hezbollah or Israel or the United States or the big Satan or the small Satan. They did it because of the economy. So if you take away the economy, then the regime will fall apart. And this is, to me, if there's no regime, that there's no nuclear program, there's no ballistic missile program, then all the dangers they are presenting the Middle East and the world are gone. So this should be the number one priority, to overthrow the regime. And to overthrow the regime is through the economy.
Jake Tapper turns the lens to a grim crisis unfolding in the occupied West Bank, where Israel is preparing for a major military operation, following a deadly clash that left 2 Israeli soldiers and 4 Palestinians dead. The report highlights a disturbing surge in settler violence against Palestinian civilians, which Israeli opposition leader Yair Lapid, pulling no punches, calls Jewish terror and a disgrace. Lapid lays the blame right at the doorstep of far-right cabinet members like Itamar Ben-Gvir, accusing Netanyahu of enabling zealots just to keep his political coalition together. Former Ambassador Tom Nides weighs in with total disgust, recalling how he personally sanctioned violent settlers during his tenure. He stresses that this rampant violence makes Israel less safe, calling it sickening to watch, and insisting that extremism, on any side, has got to be stopped before the whole area boils over. That wraps up our breakdown of this latest report. Navigating Middle East diplomacy is never simple, but keeping an eye on these geopolitical shifts is crucial as things continue to unfold. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this breakdown insightful, please hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update. See you in the next video.